I used to think I knew her. For 3 years, she was my constant. Emma, the one with the soft laugh that made people turn in restaurants, the one who remembered the small things like how I took my coffee or the name of the dog I had as a kid. She was everything you'd want someone to be, sharp, nurturing, magnetic. But love makes you blind to patterns, doesn't it? It started with her phone, always silent, always face down. I thought nothing of it. Some people just hate the noise. Then came the absences. Going for a walk turned into hours unaccounted for. Work's running late became a nightly refrain. And when I asked about her past, family, old friends, even high school, she'd flash that smile, kiss my cheek and say, "Nothing worth talking about." Then one morning, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed. I never checked it before. I respected her privacy, but something made me glance. A message preview lit up the screen. "Need to talk. You can't just disappear again. Our son keeps asking for you." I remember staring at it like it was a foreign language. Our son. At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake. Wrong number, maybe. But the days that followed were a descent into hell. I started digging, carefully, quietly. One night, I found an old shoebox tucked behind books in our closet. Inside were letters, photos, and a birth certificate. Her name was different, Elena Harper, not Emma Stone. She had a child, a boy, 5 years old, father unknown. She hadn't just lied, she had erased a life. Confronting her wasn't as explosive as I imagined. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just held up the birth certificate and said, "Who is he?" She crumbled. For the first time, the always composed Emma, Elena, fell apart. She told me everything. She had fled an abusive relationship, taken a new name, started over. She wanted to tell me, she said, but every time she tried, she was terrified she'd lose me, that I'd see her as damaged, that I'd run. But what shook me wasn't just the lies. It was how seamlessly she'd woven her new life, how well she'd played the part, loving, doting, while burying an entire identity. I moved out a week later. I needed space to breathe, to think. I tried to hate her. I tried to forget her. But some nights I'd catch myself staring at the ceiling, wondering, if you lied to protect yourself, is it still betrayal? Months passed. She reached out once, a letter, no guilt trips, no demands, just an apology, and a picture of her son. His eyes looked like hers. I never responded. I didn't know how, or I still don't. I kept the letter. Even though I told myself I should burn it, toss it in a drawer, forget it ever arrived, I didn't. It sat on my desk, beside my unopened laptop and a stack of bills I hadn't touched since I left. Sometimes I'd read it again, late at night, as if looking for something I missed. An explanation. A reason to hate her less. Or more. But what haunted me most was the picture of her son. He looked like her, yes, but he also looked like me. Or maybe that was my mind playing tricks, blending guilt and memory into something that resembled a connection. I couldn't shake the question that came clawing at the back of my skull. Was he mine? I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to know, until I did. I called her, first time in 3 months. She picked up on the second ring, breathless like she'd been expecting it. She didn't say my name, just hey, like we'd never stopped talking. "I need to see you," I said. There was a long pause, then, "Okay. But not here. Meet me at Baldwin's Diner, tomorrow, noon." The diner was nearly empty when I arrived. She was already there, sitting in a corner booth, coffee in hand, hair shorter than I remembered. She looked tired, not broken, but different, realer somehow. "You look good," she said. "I didn't come for small talk." She nodded, taking a breath. "You're wondering if he's yours?" "Yes." She looked me in the eye then, really looked. "He's not." And I believed her. But it didn't matter. The fact that I needed to know told me something important. I was still tethered to her, to all of it. Not because of some hypothetical child, but because I hadn't figured out why I still cared, why I still hurt. "You could have told me," I said. "I know, I tried, so many times. But you looked at me like I was clean, like I'd never done anything wrong, and I didn't want to lose that." "That's not love," I said. "That's performance." She winced. "Maybe. But you have to understand. I wasn't just hiding from you, I was hiding from him, my ex." She pulled out a folded envelope and slid it across the table. "I filed a restraining order last month. He found me, again. That's why I left that night. The one you thought I was just going for a walk. I was meeting my lawyer." I opened the envelope. Court dates, police reports, an affidavit from a neighbour. All real, all terrifying. I didn't know what to say. She leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not even asking for forgiveness. I didn't want you to think I didn't love you. I did. I do. But I was trying to survive." And that was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just a web of lies. It was a woman trying to stitch herself back together using whatever thread she could find. I stood up, unsure what I was doing. She looked up, bracing herself for another goodbye, but I didn't leave. I slid into the booth across from her. "Tell me everything," I said. And she did. She spoke for hours about the man she ran from, Daniel Wolfe, a name that sounded ordinary but weighed like lead in the air. A man who once held her wrists so tightly she wore long sleeves in summer. A man who knew how to apologize with roses and threats in the same breath. She told me about the first time she tried to leave and how he found her 3 states away. How the second time she changed her name, her job, her face, cut her hair, dyed it, burned her old clothes in a barrel. She became Emma that day, not out of reinvention but necessity. "He told me once," she said quietly, tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "You can run anywhere you want, but I'll always be 2 steps behind." And lately, she'd felt those 2 steps closing in. The restraining order had been hard won. He was smart. Never left marks, never used his real name when he messaged her, always just enough plausible deniability to slip through the cracks. But the last message he sent crossed the line. "I see you picked a new name. Let's see how long it lasts." She showed me the email on her phone. No return address, no IP traceable, just words on a screen that made my blood run cold. And then she said something I hadn't expected. "I need your help." There are moments in life where logic blurs, where the heart, no matter how bruised, leans forward and says, "Go." That was one of those moments. "I don't know what help looks like," I said carefully. "Just stay close. If something happens, someone needs to know the truth." That night, I followed her home. Not because I trusted her completely, I didn't, not yet. But because there was something bigger moving behind the scenes now, a threat with teeth. And maybe, just maybe, I needed redemption too, for how easily I'd walked away without asking the hard questions. We checked locks, set up cameras. I even slept on the couch, one ear open all night, like an overwound spring. Nothing happened for 3 days. Then, on the 4th night, the power went out. It was around 2:17 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd just glanced at my phone when everything went black. No storm, no warning. Just a flicker, then silence. I grabbed a flashlight, heart hammering. From the couch, I could see her bedroom door cracked open, just a sliver of light from her bedside lamp. Then darkness there, too. And then I saw it, a shadow, moving past the kitchen window, slow, deliberate, watching. I didn't think. I moved. Quiet as I could, I got to the door and locked it, deadbolt, chain, everything. Then I went for her. She was already awake, clutching something under the blankets. "Did you see him?" she whispered. I nodded. She pulled out a small black handgun. "It's registered," she said, "just in case." The next hour was a blur. Cops came. Whoever it was, if it was Daniel, was gone. No prints, no forced entry, just the chilling certainty that someone had been there, close, testing the perimeter like a predator circling prey. After the officers left, she curled up on the couch beside me, her face buried in my shoulder. "I can't run again," she whispered. And in that moment, despite everything, despite the lies, the half-truths, the things I still didn't understand, I made a decision. "You won't have to." We didn't sleep after that night. Not really. Sleep became a series of short, shallow dozes, each one ending with a creak in the hallway or a car door slamming outside. Eleanor, was always half awake, fingers curled tightly around that handgun, like it was the only thing holding her together. I stayed. Not because I forgave her, not fully, but because the danger had become real, and so had the fear in her eyes. We installed more cameras, switched to burner phones, and moved her son, Liam, to stay with a trusted friend out of town. She hated that part most. "He thinks I left him again," she said one morning, voice hollow. "I promised I wouldn't disappear." "You're protecting him," I said. "I'm protecting you too," she added, and something in her tone made me pause. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, looked down at the chipped mug in her hands. "There's more." She took me to a storage unit just outside the city, something she'd never mentioned before. Inside, tucked beneath moving blankets and boxes of decoy junk, was a locked file cabinet. When she opened it, I saw what she meant by more: a police report, photos of a bruised shoulder, printouts of threatening messages, a voice recorder, and then a flash drive. We sat in my apartment, the only place that still felt untouched, and plugged it in. The videos were grainy, dated. Each showed Daniel, sometimes alone, sometimes with her. His voice was calm, too calm, chillingly patient. And then the shift. "You think you can leave, after what you've seen? You think anyone will believe you?" The last file was just audio. Elena breathing hard, a car running, a muffled voice shouting from outside the vehicle. "I have everything," her voice trembled on the recording. If anything happens to me, this goes to the police. That's when I understood. She didn't just run to protect herself. She ran because she had leverage, and he knew it. That night, someone tried to break into my place. They jimmied the lock, but I'd installed a bar behind the door. It held, barely. There was no doubt anymore. Daniel wasn't just watching, he was escalating. We went to the police with the flash drive. At first, they hesitated, said without a restraining order violation or direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. But once they saw the videos, things changed, fast. A detective named Moran took over, older, jaded, but smart. He pulled us into his office. "You've been holding evidence like this for how long?" he said, jaw clenched. "You realize he could have killed someone?" "He almost did," I said. Moran nodded. "We'll get him, but it has to be airtight, no loopholes." That meant bait. It meant drawing Daniel out, publicly. I hated the plan. Eleanor hated it more, but she agreed. "Let's finish this," she said, staring at her own face on one of the video stills. "I'm tired of running." The setup was simple, a staged chance meeting in a crowded place where Daniel could follow. We'd leak her location through one of the fake social media profiles he still tracked, cameras everywhere, cops nearby. I stood across the street with Moran, listening through an earpiece as Elena walked through the park like it was any other afternoon. At first, nothing. Then we saw him, Daniel Wolfe. He moved like a shadow, calm, assured, watching. But when he approached her, when he grabbed her wrist just a little too tightly, the mask cracked. "You should have stayed gone." And then, "Let go of her." I don't remember deciding to run. I just did. The cops followed. Daniel turned to bolt, but he wasn't fast enough. Moran tackled him hard, knee in his back, hands cuffed behind him before he even had time to process what had happened. It was over, or at least the worst of it was. Later, at the station, Moran pulled us aside. "He's being charged with stalking, harassment, assault, enough to put him away for a while." "A while?" I asked. "We'll push for more, but this isn't Hollywood. Monsters like him don't always stay in cages." Eleanor nodded. She didn't look surprised, just tired. But in that moment, she also looked free. The trial came and went in a blur of testimony, cross-examinations, and stifled panic attacks in courthouse bathrooms. Eleanor sat on the stand with her hands folded tightly in her lap, her voice steady but low. I watched her speak her truth under oath, about the years of control, the threats, the fear, about the name she left behind, about the man who tried to erase her. Daniel never once looked remorseful, but the jury didn't care. He was sentenced to 7 years, not as long as I hoped, but long enough to give her and Liam a future. The day the verdict came down, we didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no tearful victory hug. We just sat on a bench outside the courthouse, quiet. "He's gone," I said. She nodded, staring at the sidewalk. "But not everything he did is." I knew what she meant, because even when monsters leave, they leave echoes behind. We didn't move back in together, not right away. I kept my place. She returned to hers. We visited each other, rebuilt slowly. She focused on Liam, took him to therapy, started introducing him to the real pieces of her story, carefully, honestly, and me. I was still trying to find the line between love and obligation. Some nights I'd lie awake wondering, did I stay because I loved her, or because I couldn't bear to see her alone? Was I helping, or healing through proximity? And then one evening, Liam came running up to me in the living room with a picture he'd drawn. 3 stick figures. One was clearly Elena, one was him. The third had my glasses. "This is our family," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Something cracked open in me then. Guilt, love, forgiveness. I don't know what to call it. But I knew in that moment I wasn't staying out of pity. I was staying because I wanted to. Because even after everything, every lie, every half-truth, every night, I questioned whether I even knew her. I still saw the woman who fought to reclaim herself. And I knew I wanted to be part of that fight. But we had rules now. No secrets, no silence, no pretending things are okay when they're not. She doesn't go by Emma anymore. She's Elena Harper again, fully. And I'm not the man she first met. I'm someone different too, someone older, warier, but still willing to try. Some nights we still wake up at 3 a.m. when a branch taps the window, but we check the lock, hold each other, and sleep again. And that's what remains. Not the fear, not the lies, but the choice to stay. Together. Months passed. The panic began to fade in pieces, like winter lifting one stubborn frost at a time. Eleanor started laughing more, really laughing, not the guarded kind that looked over its shoulder. Liam adjusted too. His drawings became more colourful. He stopped flinching at doorbells. He called me Dad once by accident. He looked mortified when he did. I didn't correct him. But the truth is, healing isn't a straight line. It's not a sunrise. It's a flickering bulb you keep replacing, hoping this one lasts longer than the rest. One day, we were grocery shopping, something normal, domestic, safe, and Elena stopped cold in the cereal aisle. Her eyes locked on something behind me. I turned. It wasn't Daniel. Of course not. He was locked away. It was just a man in a jacket like his. Similar build, same walk. But her whole body folded in on itself. Her breathing quickened. Her hand crushed the cereal box until the cardboard split. We left everything in the cart and walked out. Neither of us spoke until we got to the car. Then she whispered, "I don't think it'll ever fully leave me." I didn't try to reassure her with empty promises. Instead, I said, "That's okay. I'm not going anywhere." A few weeks later, we went to the ocean. Liam had never seen it before. Eleanor said Daniel hated the coast. Too open, too far from everything he could control. We watched her son run up and down the shoreline, his laughter sweeping over the tide like a song. Eleanor sat next to me on the sand, pulling her sweater tighter against the wind. "I've been thinking," she said, "about changing my name again, but not to hide." I raised an eyebrow. She smiled. "To start fresh. Eleanor Wolfe always had one foot in the fire. Eleanor Harper still carries the weight. But maybe I'm someone new now. Maybe I get to be." I took her hand. "You've earned that." She leaned her head against my shoulder, quiet for a moment. "You know, I used to think survival was about disappearing," she said, "but maybe it's about returning, taking back your voice, your name, your life." I didn't say anything. I just held her hand a little tighter. That night, as we tucked Liam into bed at the little beach rental, he looked at us and asked, "Can we stay like this forever?" Eleanor looked at me. For once, her eyes didn't carry the weight of a lie or the shadow of fear. She said, "We'll try, baby, we'll try." It's been 2 years. 2 years since the shadow of Daniel Wolfe was locked away behind steel bars and steelier silence. Since Elena stood in court and named every scar. Since I chose to stay, not because I had to, but because I couldn't imagine walking away. We moved, not to run, but to begin. A quiet town near the coast, where Liam can ride his bike without glancing over his shoulder, where Eleanor can sit at a cafe and write in her journal without scanning the crowd, where I can breathe without listening for the sound of keys at the door that never turn. We got married last spring. Small ceremony. Just us, Liam, and a friend or two who'd seen us break and rebuild. She wore blue, I wore grey. Liam cried harder than both of us and gave a toast that ended with, "I always wanted a real family, now I have one." Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it never does. Instead, I find her next to me, soft breath against my chest, a hand curled into my shirt like she still believes I might disappear. But I won't. Because we were forged in something real, something unbreakable. We are not the sum of what hurt us. We are what we chose to become after, and I've chosen this. Not the perfection we pretended at the beginning, not the illusion I clung to when I didn't know who she really was, but the truth of her, all of it, broken and brave and unrelenting. Eleanor Wolfe died the day she ran. Emma Harper was a mask. Eleanor Carter is who she became. But the woman I love, she was always there, beneath it all, waiting to be seen. And now she's here, alive, free, ours.